Good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the show this evening. Hope you had a nice Sunday. Tonight, we're going to be talking about goal setting, focus on nutrition and fitness. Really, this methodology and these ideas could be applied to goal setting of any sort. As usual, just a short disclaimer. My name is Jonathan Reisman. That's not the disclaimer. That's just a fact. The disclaimer is that while I am a doctor, this is not medical advice. This is educational in nature. Additionally, I go to the University of Minnesota for my residency. I love it. It is amazing, but this talk is not a product of the University of Minnesota. These thoughts and ideas are my own. That being the case, let's jump in to goal setting, fitness and nutrition, how to set goals that will last, how to set goals that are realistic, and how to make sure we're achieving the things that we want to achieve. We can apply this to things like studying for tests or any other skill or habit that we want. So initially, right, we need to identify a desire. Right? You see somebody with a six-pack and you say, hey, you know what? I want a six-pack. Or somebody gets 100 on the test and, oh, I want 100 on a test. It could be about anything. You find out somebody's got low blood pressure, or I should say healthy blood pressure, and you decide, I want that kind of blood pressure. So when you identify something that you want, it can be easy to just say, okay, that's what I want. You start to figure out how you're going to go about getting it. It's important to assess why you want it and really think about that. If it's a six-pack, or to fit into your clothes better, or to have better, whiter teeth, or whatever your fitness or nutrition goal might be, try to figure out why is it that you want that goal. And the reason for that is there's a lot of times we chase goals that not only are we putting in so much effort into those goals, but those goals might not even lead to what we're really subconsciously even trying to achieve. For instance, if let's just say I said I want a six-pack, well, why do I want that six-pack? Is it because I want to be healthy? Is it because I want to live well to a nice old age and be able to play with my great-grandchildren? Is it because I have low self-esteem and I think it'll make me feel better about myself? Is it because I want people to think I'm cool? There could be so many reasons, and we might actually be chasing something that will not lead to what our real goal is. Same thing could be with becoming a doctor. Somebody might say, my goal is to become a doctor. Well, why do you want to become a doctor? Is it because that's what everybody wants from you? Is it because you think it'll make money? Is it because you think it'll make you happy? You have to really figure out why it is what you want to do. And once you figure that out, you can assess if it really is going to make sense for you. So once we identify the desire, the other thing that's important for that is because, as we are probably all well aware, things that are difficult to achieve, they don't happen overnight. And even when you do reach it, you have to sustain it. And the thing is, if we don't understand exactly why it is that we want what we want, it can be difficult to maintain motivation. It's easy to be motivated in the beginning with a goal, but it's difficult to maintain it over time. So that being the case, we've identified a desire. Now we have to figure out what action or sets of actions will lead to that outcome. I know it kind of sounds simple, but it's important to really map this out. And when I say map that out, I mean detailed, as tiny detailed as possible. So if it was a six-pack, well, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do 30 minutes of sit-ups every night. And I'm going to run on the treadmill and I'm going to, I'm going to lift weights and I'm going to do all this stuff. Well, is that going to lead to the goal? What if we were to tell you that 80% of your outcome from the shape that you're in is from what you eat and not from the gym? So you might be spending all this time doing sit-ups and crunches, and actually you're not eating well, and you will never reach that goal of the six-pack. Or for that matter, what if you're doing all of these sit-ups and the science now shows that that's not the best way to get a six-pack? It's by doing, compound movements, full body movements, squats, things like that. So figure out what will lead to it. To put in the effort to figure out before you start worrying and doing all this energy. putting in all this effort to something that might not actually get you there. The reality is we're probably aware also that anything that you are setting a goal for is probably not easy, because if it was easy, you wouldn't have to be putting all of this effort into thinking about it and setting a goal. It would just be something you do already. And we are all unique in our own ways. And for some people, some things are easy. And for some people, some things are hard. So it's not easy. And the other thing is that something that is not easy, it's probably not worth your time to accomplish it if it's not going to last. Now, you might be at a point in your life for a certain thing that you have a time-sensitive goal. In that case, whether or not it lasts might not matter. If you are a professional bodybuilder and you just need to get to a certain body fat percentage for a show, then whether or not it's going to last might be a different story. Or if you're training for the Olympics, whether or not that's going to last, that might be a different story. But for most of us, when it comes to fitness and nutrition, we can, or anything for that matter, study habits, going to bed on time, any kind of anything that requires a lot of effort, we want to set things up in a way that it's going to last. And it can be very easy to do things that will derail our desires. So for instance, if I want to get to a healthy weight, so what am I going to do? I'm going to go to the gym twice a day. I'm going to eat 1,500 calories a day. And let's say that works. And let's say I can keep that up, and I keep it up for 6 months and I reach what my goal is. What are the odds that I'm going to still be able to maintain that for the next 15, 20, 30, 40 years? Probably very small. So we want to keep up our goals, and we want to build our goals in a way that things will stack like a foundation. The things that we're working on now, once we master those, we take on higher level things and higher level things. And if we build in that sort of strategic, natural, organic manner, you'll develop new skills that will just be a part of who you are. We'll get to a way to do that in a moment. Now, another pitfall that happens a lot of times to people is we become very extreme. I say I want to lose 30 pounds, or I go to the doctor and the doctor tells me, your blood pressure is 20 points too high, and you need to lower it. So what do I say to myself? That's it. I am never going to eat salt again. I'm not drinking any alcohol. I'm exercising every day. We come up with some sort of an extreme. The problem is when you build all of these extreme goals is that it is, besides from the fact very difficult to maintain, it's almost impossible. And when we make things we end up making things all or nothing. The problem is when we make things all or nothing, the reality is it is impossible to stay at all forever. We're never going to just be doing everything 100% at all times. Maybe you could do it for a day, maybe 2 days, maybe a week, but there's no way to maintain 100%. And then what happens is, we say, it's not working right now. I've done that in many times in my life where, let's say I go on a vacation, and ahead of my vacation, I say, you know what, I want to go to the gym. I want to eat well. I don't want to come back from this vacation 25 pounds heavier. So I'm going to go to the gym every morning. I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning before we go to the beach so that I can do what I need to do. And I set all these extreme goals. And then what happens after one day is, that didn't work. Today was pretty bad. So tonight when we go to the pool, I'll just indulge and get whatever I want, because tomorrow morning I'll start over and I'll be really extreme and I'll do it properly. And then the next day, same thing happens, and you blow it the next day. Well, then you say to yourself, listen, I wanted to have my vacation go a certain way. It didn't happen. These first 2 days, it just didn't happen for me. So listen, I'll just do whatever I want. I'll have fun. I'm on vacation, right? And when I get home from my vacation, I'll go back to what I was going to do. So what ends up happening is when we try to do all or nothing, we end up doing nothing at all. And that happens. It's very easy. That's why people yo-yo with a lot of things. It's easy to yo-yo with your weight. It's difficult to maintain your body, or I don't want to just harp on weight, but it's difficult to maintain your body's goals in a mediocre, I shouldn't say mediocre, in a normal level. It's very easy to be on one end of the spectrum. We have people that go to CrossFit every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning and they, do their meal prep at the beginning of the week, and it's super easy for them to do that, or it's super easy for them to do absolutely nothing at all. So instead of saying all or nothing as a mentality, there's a hack for it. Instead of saying all or nothing, say always something. So in a sense, what we are doing is we've become extreme about being moderate. And when you turn moderation into a value that you think is super important, then you can start to do that. So what somebody who says always something would do is they would say, listen, my vacation is starting next week. I know I'm not going to keep up at my routine of, running for 5 miles a day while I'm on my vacation and everything. I'm going to do 20 push-ups a day, and that's all I'm going to do. But I'm going to do at least 20 push-ups. And if you do that, you'll be surprised. What you'll find is you get on the floor to do those 20 push-ups. If you're somebody who works out for an hour every day, once you've done those 20 push-ups, you're probably not going to stop there. You're probably going to move on to do something else. But it's okay if you stop there. You've at least done something. And by being a person who is always doing something towards their goals and avoiding these extremes of all or nothing, you will develop the discipline to always do what it is that you need to do. I keep talking about nutrition and fitness, but this could be with anything. Say you wanted to learn a musical instrument. Well, you're not going to become an amazing guitar player if you don't practice every day. So you want to practice, you say, I'm going to do guitar every night for 30 minutes. Well, that might not be realistic. Why don't you just say, I will play guitar every night for 2 minutes. I will practice the major scale every night for 2 minutes. What happens after those 2 minutes? We'll see. Maybe you'll keep playing for more, and before you'll know it, it'll be 40 minutes. But you're going to at least do those 2 minutes. Now, there's a book that I read called Tiny Habits, a phenomenal book, and they explain that when building or designing habits, you should break them down into the smallest individual pieces so we know exactly what it's going to look like. Now, we know you might be aware if you've learned about studying for tests or if you've played on a sports team. Visualization is really important. What is it going to look like? Let's just say you play basketball and you want to improve your free throw percentage. So what is it going to look like? And you can map out every stage in your brain. Well, I get fouled and then they're going to blow a whistle. And then everybody's going to line up at the lines and I'm going to walk to the foul line. And then the ref's going to send me the ball. And then I'm going to bounce the ball. And, you do all of these things. Map out every single individual detail. So what does that mean? If I tell myself, well, tomorrow morning I want to go to the gym, what is involved with going to the gym? Because tomorrow morning my alarm's going to ring and I'm just going to be too tired. So, well, first thing I need to do is get my shoes and get my socks and put them on. And if you need coffee beforehand, well, and I have to make my coffee. Call out all of these little details. And then what you do is you anchor behaviors to things that you do already. So let's say it's going home. Well, at the end, let's say you want to work out at the end of the day when you get home. So I get home and I say, I'm going to work out tomorrow when I get home. And what happens? I get home, I'm tired, I sit on the couch. And I tell myself, you know what? I'll sit on the couch for a half hour just to get my energy back. And then once I'm feeling my energy, I'll go to the gym. Before you know it, it's 9 o'clock at night and I didn't end up going to the gym. So be very, very specific. Say, when I get home, as soon as I put my keys down, I am going to put on my sneakers. Or, as soon as I step through the door, I am going to grab the gym bag. Be very specific and deliberate with the smallest amount of detail in what has to happen next. And it can be very valuable to you. Another idea from this book, it's a lot of these things are things we kind of know already. They all sound rational and intuitive, but is that understand that there's almost like an inverse proportion with behavior between motivation and the difficulty or ease, conversely, for doing an action. So what does that mean? Well, let's just say I said to myself, I want to pray every morning. So why would somebody say that, right? The same reason. Why would somebody say, I want to get a six-pack? It's because you have something motivating you. Maybe it's because somebody that I care about is sick and I want them to have to feel better. Maybe it's because I have a big test coming up and I want to do well on that test. Or if prayer isn't your thing, I just say, I want to meditate. Why do you want to meditate? Because I want to reduce my stress, or because, I want to think better on exams, whatever your goal is. So the thing is, if you are super stressed out and you're just in a position that something is not working for you, then your motivation to do that action of meditating is super high. Because, or like, if you want to work, or you want to work, or you want to be an entrepreneur, you're motivated to go door to door because you just, you got a letter in the mail that you're going to, lose your car. So you have that motivation that's super, super high. When your motivation is through the roof because you are in the moment in a crunch, it almost doesn't matter what the effort level that is required of you. For instance, if you saw somebody that was stuck underneath a car, it doesn't matter that the strength required to lift that car is, strength that you don't even have. Your motivation to lift that car is so high that you can just lift the car, right? But that's only right then while you have that motivation. Once the motivation goes away, you're not lifting that car. So, if it was prayer, you say you want to pray every day or whatever, and that first day, it might be very easy to do it. The next day might be very easy to do it, but eventually your motivation goes down as you move further away from whatever your emotional stimulus was to want to take on an action. And once that motivation goes away, what's really going to decide whether or not you follow through on your goals is how easy or difficult the action ahead of you is. So if you decide for a goal, for instance, let's bring it back. We said, I'm going to play guitar for 2 minutes a day. Well, that is a really easy, potentially, goal. So when your motivation is super high, you maybe would have been capable of saying, I'm going to do 30 minutes a day, but the problem is your motivation is going to drop. And then the what is required to do 30 minutes might be too difficult for you, at which point you're going to go into all or nothing mode and do absolutely nothing. So by saying 2 minutes, even though your motivation in that day one might allow you to do more, you do those 2 minutes. The next day, you do the 2 minutes. The motivation drops, but the required energy is low enough that you can actually follow through, build the habit, and then before you know it, 2 minutes is too easy and you can take on more. Same thing with what I said about 20 push-ups. You do the 20 push-ups because let's just say 20 push-ups is easy for you. If 20 push-ups is too hard, you'll just say, I'm going to do one push-up. Well, eventually one push-up is super easy for you. So then you can move on to 5, you can move on to 10. So the key there that we're uncovering is, when you have a period of motivation in your life, you want to seize that opportunity, because motivation comes and then it goes. So we don't want to waste motivation. So when you do have motivation, it's important that the goals that you take are reasonable enough that you can build a habit. So what that might look like with nutrition is, if I said to myself, I don't fit into my clothes right now and I want to fit into my clothes, or I want to feel healthier. I felt really healthy 6 months ago. I don't feel really healthy right now. And I said, I'm going to go to the gym for 45 minutes every night. Well, if that 45 minutes isn't realistic, then what's going to happen is the opportunity is going to go away. My motivation is gone. Who knows when I'll get the motivation again? So by seizing the opportunity, we would, choose a more reasonable goal, and you can build on it over time. Before you know it, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you're in a place where you don't even have to think about it because it's something you've mastered. It's better to get there eventually than to arrive there for a fleeting moment in the beginning and then never get there again. Again, there might be a time and a place in your life where, depending on what is required of you, you might have to arrive at a certain goal rapidly. But in general, these sort of things, it's better to take your time, get there over time. Same thing with getting into medical school. Take your time and get there. If you try to rush it when the time is not right, then your odds of getting in are already going to be a little bit lower. Or even if you do get in, your odds of being happy are going to be a little bit lower because maybe something else had to give in order for you to get there. One last point I just want to address, and then I could take some questions if anyone has, is it is really important to see how one action leads to the next, which leads to the next, which leads to the next. Don't look at, we view that, we say that there are 7 days in the week. So we end up saying, oh, Sunday I did this, Monday I did this, Tuesday I did that. But understand that it's all connected. Sunday leads into Monday. Monday leads into Monday afternoon. Monday afternoon leads into Monday evening, which leads into Tuesday morning. And why do I mention those obvious things that you clearly know already? Is because when we think about nutrition and fitness in particular, but other things as well, the information that is told to us is not always in our best interest. And that's going to be true with a lot of things, and it's something we have to be aware of. So what do I mean by that? Let's just say I wanted to get stronger. So I bought a Men's Health when I was at the checkout aisle of the supermarket, and I see on the cover is the latest superhero to be in the next Marvel movie, and this superhero got in amazing shape, and turned to page 32 to see what they did. And this superhero ate a diet that was 95% protein, no carbs, zero alcohol, worked out 5 hours a day, slept for 12 hours a night, all of these things. And maybe what it is, so obviously that is not realistic for any of us. That's just clear. So fine. But what about a lot of times you'll see, oh, a university of whatever did a study showed that the best way to eat is to do X, Y, or Z, or the best way to exercise is to do A, B, C. So you would tell yourself, okay, well, that's what I should do if I want to have those desired outcomes. But you have to realize that those are athletes. Those are Division I athletes a lot of times in the case. And again, just like the Marvel superhero, you cannot apply those things to you, because what's going to happen? It's happened to me many times. I want to start working out. So let's just say, okay, I'm going to work out tonight. And beforehand, I'm going to eat really well. I'm going to have a banana and I'm going to have a yogurt. And then afterwards, I'm not going to eat a lot of carbs. I'm going to have protein powder, a smoothie. I'm not going to eat past 8 o'clock at night. I'm not going to have too many calories, right? I feel so good about it. I did the right thing. What happens the next morning is you might find that you have an uncontrollable hunger. And the reason is because your body is still feeling the effects of that workout from the night before. You're not thinking about that because, as far as you're concerned, the workout was yesterday. You ate before it, you ate afterwards. And the probability of you on day 2 eating the way you want to eat is super low, because your body is still feeling the effects of that previous day. So that doesn't mean you can't do any of those things, but understand that what I do tonight is going to affect me tomorrow morning. What I do tomorrow morning is going to affect my workout tomorrow night. If you drop your glucose, you're going to crave glucose. If you don't sleep enough, you're going to get this uncontrollable urge for carbohydrates. Again, the goal of this talk is not to give nutrition or fitness advice per se, but it's just some of the behavioral ideas that go into creating these goals that will work for the long term. So with that, again, none of this was medical advice, education only. We can take a look at a couple of questions. One right here, what's the best way to manage burnouts when you have a goal and the road is long? That is an excellent question. I'm currently in year 14 of a 16-year plan, so I can definitely relate to that. And yeah, I've been talking about goal setting and arriving at things along the way. So one, off the top of my head, reward yourself. So if you have a long road with a lot of intervals, for instance, you can chunk things into small bits. So this year is my 3rd year of residency. My year of residency has 5 different blocks to it. This coming week, I finish block 1. So maybe I can give myself a little bit of a reward that will make me feel good about what it is that I did, understanding I didn't finish everything yet, but it kind of gives you that inspiration to keep moving. So celebrate your progress along the way, even if you have a big long-term goal. Let's say your goal is to become a doctor and you're just starting college and you have to take chemistry, physics, organic chemistry, all these other things. Understand that every day that you do what it is that you need to do is a victory. Every moment that you do what it is that you need to do is a victory, and celebrate those victories. but when you do that, and that's another thing that they talk about in that book, Tiny Habits, which is really interesting, is he disproves the idea that a habit requires repetition to prove. I've heard from a lot of people, oh, you have to do something, 40 times, 100 times, 40 days. You'll hear a lot of different numbers. Do something X amount of times and then you'll do it. It is not true. Something that you don't like doing, that it is very hard to do, it doesn't matter if you do it 100 times. Day 101, you're not going to do it if it's not something that you actually want to do. So, pick something that you enjoy and celebrate along the way. So, the thing is that it's the emotional experience that you get when doing an action that anchors a habit. So if you feel good about what it is that you're doing, if you have meaning that comes from what it is that you're doing, you are likely to encode that as a habit. If you don't get a good feeling from doing what it is that you want to do, it's probably not going to become a habit. So I would suggest that as far as managing burnouts. But the other thing is taking breaks. There's nothing wrong with scheduling breaks. You know, if it's studying for a board exam or for the MCAT, or even on a smaller, more micro level. If you're going to study for the day and you say, I want to study for 10 hours today, well, instead of trying to sit for 10 hours straight, say, okay, I'm going to study for 50 minutes and take a 10-minute break. Then I'm going to study for 50 minutes and take a 10-minute break. But let's say after 3 hours, I'm going to take a 1-hour break and then go back to it again. And then again, do another 3 hours and then a 1-hour break. It has to work for you ultimately. But again, it's keeping your eye on the prize, but finding a way to get excited and remind yourself in the moment about what it is that you want to do and why it is that you want to do it. That comes back to what we said in the beginning. Identify the desire. Why is it that you want that six pack? Why is it that you want to play guitar every day? Why is it that you want to get into medical school? If you remind yourself about why it is that you're doing what you're doing, you will not burn out. I mentioned I'm in year 14 of 16. I have not burned out. My intern year was extremely, extremely difficult. Every morning was really, really difficult sometimes to get out of bed and go do what I needed to do that day. But I never once felt like, why am I doing this? I don't want to be doing this. No matter, I had a lot of stress at a lot of points in medical school. I never once questioned what it is that was doing. I never once felt like quitting because I constantly remind myself why it is that I'm doing what it is that I'm doing. And I think that in our lives, if we are always reminding ourselves of why it is that we want to do, what it is that we're doing, and hopefully we've chosen actions and goals that are authentic to what we really want, and hopefully those things are good for us, then I don't think we'll burn out all that much. And I guess lastly, one other thing with that is understand that not every day is going to go well. So, I said that thing about always something. I'm always going to do those push-ups. I'm always going to do that 2 minutes of guitar. Well, if it doesn't happen one day, don't feel like a failure and don't think that sent you down the road of all or nothing and now I'm going to do nothing. Pick yourself back up and just make meaning out of it. Say, this was a moment that it didn't work for me, but the moment passed. And that's the other thing. We think about one day to the next. So just because it's Monday, it's Sunday night right now, if you feel like Sunday, you didn't do what it is that you wanted to do, Sunday's not done. You can just say, hey, you know what? I'm not super happy or proud about how I was trying to reach my goals on Sunday, but I'm going to take a 30-second refresher right now to write down or reaffirm what my goals are, just to get more strength, and just pick yourself back up, even if it's something small, and you can prevent burnout that way. One question that came in over Instagram that I wanted to talk about was, how do you know if your goals are realistic? Well, one, again, besides for the fact that, as they say, Rome wasn't built in a day, a lot of times they also say, I don't know who they is, but it takes a village. And a lot of these things that are not easy to do require a good support group, a good support system. So run things by somebody you trust. I'm somebody that a lot of times in my life, and probably frequently still, I'll set a goal for myself that's totally ridiculous. And my family is not that bad at pointing it out. They're pretty quick. When I was growing up, my parents would say, come on, that's absurd. my wife now will say, come on, you're not going to do that. So have people that you trust that understand what it is that you want to do. If it's about studying in medical school, then you're going to need somebody that understands, what kind of studying needs to go in medical school. So somebody that you trust that understands what you're going through, and bounce it off of them. And then the other thing is understand that sometimes you have to experiment with different things. I'm 32 years old, and I've been experimenting with what kind of exercise routine works for me, what kind of nutrition works for me. And I'm proud to say that I think I've really figured out something good right here, but it takes time. And just one day at a time. And a lot of times the other thing is, if a goal is realistic or not, if you press pause and just think about it for a minute, your gut will tell you. You'll just be like, yeah, like that's not going to happen, but you need to just come down from that emotional high. If I'm telling myself, oh yeah, like I'm going to run 2.5 hours a day because I just saw a movie about somebody that was running really well, right there, and then when I finish that movie, I might still be feeling that, but 30 minutes later, when I'm, out taking out the trash, I'll be like, what was I thinking? Like, run 2.5 hours a day? Like, I'm not going to do that. So that was that. Next question is, along those lines, do you have tips for how to recover from being burned out? This is a really complicated topic. That is something. So burnout is serious, by the way, and burnout is something that can be really damaging to people. A lot of doctors, maybe we're aware, maybe we're not aware of the statistics or the data, but like people can get very depressed, and unfortunately, a lot of bad things happens to some people in medicine when they burn out. So yeah, so I would say that that's probably a good question to be answered on a case-by-case basis. But in general, the short answer is, I would say, remind yourself why it is that you're doing what you're doing, and reconnect with what your passion is. So you see that sometimes doctors change careers. I have an attending physician who originally was an internal medicine doctor and then switched over to a different specialty. So remind yourself what it is that was your desire, right? Like I said, figure out why it is that you want to do what you want to do. And if you realize that you're not connecting with that anymore, then you might need to switch something up so that you connect with it a little bit more. What if an individual has trouble reaching/working for his or her goals because the individual gets too caught up comparing themselves to others and what they're doing? Well, I would say the short end of that is the reality is that question, I think, would be better, is an important question, but I think that that's a different topic, and that is doing things because of your own self-esteem, and what is your self-esteem, and doing things because you want to do them, not because other people want them to. That goes into not comparing yourself to other people and stuff like that, which is potentially a really good talk for another night. It certainly happens in medicine. A lot of us, we are often going to be the best performers on tests, let's say, as we're growing up, and then you get to medical school or pre-med, and all of a sudden everyone in the class is doing well and maybe you're not doing well. So it's very easy to compare, all of a sudden, to compare yourself to other people. And when you're practicing medicine as a doctor, that can happen again. So, but I would say that that's going to be less about goal setting and more about kind of the beginning with what I said with desire, is what it is that you want to do. Why is it? Is it because that's truly what you want? Is it what's healthy for you? Or are you doing it because you're comparing yourself to other people? And that really, what it comes down to, is how you define success. Hopefully success for you doesn't look like, it looks like what it means to you, not necessarily what it means to somebody else, but that is easier said than done. We have another question here. Similar to the previous questions, what is the best way to deal with doubt of the future, whether you'll make it into medical school or even something like managing work/family life? So that is an excellent question. I do think that too should probably be its own talk, to the extent that I can work it into this framework. Is, like I said, small steps and small habits, because when you create small goals that are achievable, then you see that you are being successful. So, like I said, if I said I'm going to play guitar for 2 minutes a night, your brain, it does. If I said I'm going to do it for an hour, or if I'm going to do it for 1 minute, when you reach your goal, your brain releases the chemicals that are associated with success and pleasure. So if you said I need to do 2 hours and you ended up doing an hour and a half, you're going to feel like a failure. If you said I need to do 1 minute and you ended up doing that 1 minute, you are not going to feel like a failure. You're going to feel like a champion because you reached your goal. So by breaking things down into achievable goals, then when you start to see success, you will develop confidence, because you are learning from your your past. And that's probably not all that different from how we develop over time. Imagine somebody who always did well in school, or a child that didn't always do well in school. The kid that always did well in school, they're it's not going to be the case for everyone, but they probably have a higher likelihood of developing a confidence that anything that comes my way, I can do well. Whereas somebody who didn't always do well, they might have the opposite self-talk, and it might be, oh, when something comes my way, I'm not going to do that well. The more you see yourself succeeding, the more your brain will anticipate success. That's kind of what I spoke to earlier about visualization, when getting to the foul line and visualizing what's going to happen. I'm going to get fouled, I'm going to hear the whistle, everyone's going to line up, I'm going to go to the foul line, the ref's going to give me the ball, I'm going to bounce the ball, I'm going to shoot it, I'm going to see it go in. What's it going to sound like when it goes in? The net's going to swish, everybody's going to cheer. All of these, what's it going to feel like to be successful? All this visualization, visualize the success, create that emotional release in your brain that's going to be the reward that gives you the opportunity to do those habits. That's what I said about behavior. Habits are formed when your behavior that you do, it becomes associated with positive emotion. Then it becomes a habit for you. It becomes easy to do over and over. So make small achievable goals, and if they're not achievable, then you need to modify. If you're taking physics and orgo and bio in one semester and you're not doing well, you might need to drop a class. You might need to alter something so that it is achievable. But when you see that you're doing well, you do well on a quiz, you do well on another quiz, you get 100 on a homework assignment, it gives you a lot more confidence to that you're going to do well on that test that's coming up. I know I kind of left it to school framework there, but I would say the similar things would kind of be extrapolated to other things. Small achievable goals that work for you, that you can then feel success with, and repeated success leads to confidence. And then it becomes self-fulfilling prophecy, because I strongly believe that anybody, and we can end on this, I say this all the time, I do think that anybody can become a doctor if they want to become a doctor badly enough. That goes back to what I said about motivation. If your motivation is there's a lot of people that want it for a day or two, or for a month, or for a year, or for 2 months, or for 2 years. If that motivation goes away, then the tasks ahead of you, which require a lot of effort, will be too high. But if your motivation is super high, if the degree to which you want to be a doctor is metaphorically equivalent to how badly somebody wants to lift a car to save another human being, then it doesn't matter what is in front of you, you will be successful with your goals. It doesn't matter what is in front of you, what challenges, you will be able to overcome it. So with that, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. Dr. John Reisman on Instagram and Twitter. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe here. Stay current with the stuff that we're doing. If you have any questions, requests for talks for next week, I know this was kind of a meaty topic, and I think that some really good questions were raised in the chat. So maybe we can do a talk next week on some of this stuff. So reach out to me. Let me know what you think. What here works for you, what doesn't work for you, what have you had good experience, what have you not had good experience with. Let me know any comments or questions. Otherwise, it was great to talk to you. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you have a nice Labor Day weekend, and hope to see you soon.